Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. I hope you're doing well and that you are all having an incredible day. As always, this must be said. The opinions expressed in this video are my own and should not under any circumstances be taken as legal, tax, and or investment advice. As always, please, I implore you to always do your own research. And without further ado, let's jump into it. This is a very requested video, especially after my other video, how many Bitcoin should you own? A lot of people are wondering or are fascinated by the prospect of how many XRP you would have to own in order to, I guess, I want to say kind of make it to be part of the XRP 1%, if you kind of want to put it into those terms. The most interesting part, at least for me, is that a lot of this data can actually be found on the internet. You had to do some digging. Anyway, the point is, the entire point of XRP, as opposed to other cryptocurrencies, is to actually be used. We have heard or seen many other cryptocurrencies who are striving to become a store of value, to be parked, not really used, too expensive, whatever the actual case might be. The transactions may cost too much. The point of XRP is to actually be used on a daily basis, billions of times a day, through multiple different financial institutions to be able to send money around the world with ease. For those of you who are wondering what this page actually here is, it has all the information about XRP and who actually holds huge amounts of it as well. It's actually quite interesting. This is why the cryptocurrency space is very fascinating, because it shows an enormous amount of transparency, which is typically something that we do not have or at all in the normal banking sector. And this is why I have an affinity for XRP and exactly what they're trying to do, because they are on some intergalactic level trying to bring transparency to the actual financial world that has harmed us so many times before in the past. You can actually see the other crypto exchanges and exactly how many XRP that they have out there. So the normal question that I typically myself get from a lot of people is they wonder, how many XRP do you have to have in order to become a millionaire? I think this is the normal average question. This is a question that kind of pops up for everyone, and I will definitely get to that as well because it kind of fits into the entire thing. So moving along, we have had an enormous amount of information from the Ripple team as far as the actual corporations and organizations who are going to be utilizing their product that is known as XRapid. For those who do not know, it is in the shortest terms, a computer system. For those who wish to use the XRP token, they use something called XRapid. Over the course of the last year and a half, we've had at least 15 to 20 different institutions who have announced that they are either planning on using or are currently using it, or at some future date they plan on integrating it with their systems as well. This is important because, for those who do not know, it actually even has it right here. If you look at the total amount of XRP, I don't know how quickly it actually goes. It varies. The number here actually goes down. Every single time that a transaction happens on the XRP ledger in the XRP space, a certain amount of XRP are actually burned. And this is why the original total supply of XRP was 100 billion coins, but you can see that is no longer the case. As more people continue to use XRP, the number will continuously, forever, as long as the protocol exists, go down as people are actually using it. So when we have indications that in the future there are going to be more and more institutions who are going to be using XRP, who are going to be using XRapid, it kind of leads us to this world where if we have already burnt millions and millions of XRP through the course of normal people just using it, what ends up happening if sometime in the future we have 15 to 20 different institutions or more, 150 institutions over the next couple of years who are going to be using it as well, this further decreases the actual supply of XRP that are actually out there. We also had news sometime last year, and this has just been activated. It is called Xcurrent 4.0. It is the other method of payment that the Ripple team has initiated for people to be able to send value back and forth through their systems. They have actually integrated Xcurrent with XRapid so that those institutions who are using Xcurrent currently, that was not meant to be a joke, can simply also utilize the XRP token as well. For those who also do not know, this also ties in directly into it before I get to the actual numbers and stuff like that, because it is very important to also remember, keep this in the back of your mind always, that the Ripple team has an enormous amount of partnerships. These are only a small few of them who have announced that they are going to be using their products, are going to be using the XRP token. At the moment, we know for a fact that there are over 200 plus institutions around the world who are partnered with Ripple, institutions, banking services, banks, central banks. You can kind of, I can't even begin to get into the amount of support that they have behind them, and the other countries as well that we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks as far as them opening up offices and having connections within Dubai. Apparently, they mentioned sometime last year that they have partnered with at least 70 to 80% of the banks within India. So you kind of understand where this could all be going. So when you actually get to the numbers of the amount of XRP that one would need, or how many one would should have in their possession, it gets very interesting very, very fast. Once again, recapping, there are only going to be a total maximum amount of 100 billion XRP. You can see right here, this is no longer the case because the supply continues to dwindle. On top of that as well, we have seen something. There's a phenomenon that's been happening in the financial world over the last couple of years, and also more so in the cryptocurrency space. There are entities that we call whales. There is a Twitter account called Whale Alert, where they pretty much track the people who have very large, huge amounts of cryptocurrencies, and exactly where these cryptocurrencies are going. It's more kind of just to keep track to see who has what, where this money is going, how this money is being transferred, etc., etc. This is only just one tweet from this actual account. They tweet very often, and they kind of pretty much tell people when these movements are happening. We've seen an increase in the amount of movement since the market has picked back up over the last couple of weeks. And this is just one example. There were 50 transactions of 10 million XRP from Bittrex to Upbit in the last hour, equaled around 159 million US dollars. So here's where it starts to get very, very interesting, at least in my opinion. At the current moment, regardless of the price, wherever the thing might be, there's a circulating supply of XRP of around 42.1 billion tokens that are floating around. We know that you can find this on multiple different websites. This is completely common knowledge. We know for a fact that the Ripple team, as it says max supply right here, is in possession of a large amount of XRP. This has been common news for a very long time. In 2016, they announced that they would be launching an escrow. In 2017, they actually did launch the escrow for the additional amount of XRP that is not circulating, that the Ripple team holds, that they have in their own computer vault system every single month over the course of a 5-year period that is also rotating. So even after that 5-year period, this amount of XRP will continue rolling over. That they have 1 billion XRP that is released to them. And what typically happens with this XRP is that they use this to either fund products, projects, campaigns, things that are going on, travel, whatever the actual case might be. And also over the last year, because of places like Whale Alert and also because of the Ripple team and their transparency, they have told us that there are mega institutions, a lot of over-the-counter buying and selling and trading of people who are buying massive amounts of XRP. Some months we have in the 10s, 20, 30, 40 millions of dollars of people who are buying large amounts of XRP. And that was even more so significant when the price of XRP was even lower than it actually is right now. So now that that's all out of the way and you have a bit of a backdrop as to exactly why all these numbers are very significant, keeping in mind max supply 100 billion, and the circulating supply of 42 billion coins out there. The max supply of XRP that will ever be is 100 billion tokens. There are roughly, give or take, I mentioned before the amount of number of people on the planet, and someone was like, no, there's actually this many. I was like, I'm sorry that I haven't counted every human head on the planet. There are roughly 8 billion people on this earth. If you do 100 billion XRP divided by 8 billion people, you get to around only 12.5, that's it, XRP per person on this planet that every single person on this planet would be able to have at a maximum. It means holding 25 XRP for you means that there is one other person on the planet who will never own more XRP than you ever. We currently know that Ripple holds around roughly 57.9 billion XRP, and even that number is widely discussed because we believe that a lot of the money may actually be allocated to other things, because over the course of 2018, the Ripple team announced multiple times that they were going to be allocating an enormous amount of XRP to other funds such as Spring, Coil, what's the other one, Codius, for further use cases of the actual XRP token. Current supply that's circulating is around 42.1 billion. A very interesting thing that a lot of people don't really pay attention to is the fact that while we know the amount out there that could possibly be circulating, that number isn't usually correct, as far as there are people listening to this right now who have XRP who plan on not spending their XRP anytime soon. That money, while it may be in the circulating supply, is not going to be circulating anytime in the near future. The same exact thing happens with Bitcoin. We usually get a lot of information. Okay, so continuing on. moving forward, let's assume that the whales out there, the people who have very large, vast amounts of XRP, that they have anywhere between them around 5 to 10 billion XRP, which means around 32 to 37 billion XRP that are currently circulating, if even that much. Is a very rough, basic, don't really know, can't give you an exact number if this is correct or too low or too high. I actually know the answer to that, and this is why it gets really interesting, of XRP that's actually circulating around. So if you do this number, 32 billion XRP, taking away the money that the whales have, because it's widely believed that a lot of the people who are getting into the cryptocurrency space, the people who are getting into the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, Fidelity, all this other stuff, they're buying up vast amounts of cryptocurrency to give these to these other platforms, especially to Fidelity, to be able to custody their cryptocurrency, and therefore they will be holding onto these cryptocurrencies over the next 10 to 15 years, if even that little. They continue going on. 32 billion XRP that we can assume is actually circulating around, divided by 8 billion people, means that there will only be 4 XRP per person on this earth ever. And that even decreases as you actually have the burn rate of XRP increasing as more people around the world are actually using their XRP. So this is why I said where it gets really interesting, because all this information can be found online, depending on where you look, depending on how you try to find it. If you try to take your time to actually find this information as well, you find out that there's already somebody who has made an XRP rich list, which pretty much shows that the 100 largest accounts, XRP owned by the top 100 accounts out there, it accounts for around 38 billion XRP. And it comes around 78.31% of the total circulating amount that we have out there. And before anyone turns up their lip, starts frowning, folds their arm, and says that that is an indication of centralization, never forget that we also have numbers out there as well for the amount of Bitcoin that's held by multiple institutions. And we know for a fact that there are multiple institutions who hold a good 100, 200, 300,000 worth of Bitcoin each, just them owning that much. We know that the Winklevoss twins also own at least 200,000 Bitcoin. So we know that there are rich lists for every single cryptocurrency. We've seen them across the board. This just happens to be the one for XRP. So just a little throw this out there, because I love whenever I post something similar to this and a lot of people talk about centralization. Make sure to turn that mirror back on yourself, because the coin that you also love is probably also in the hands of a lot of rich people. This number has only increased over the course of 2018 as well, simply because I mentioned before in many other videos, once again, not financial advice, that there are a number of very large, rich people out there who have been accumulating these cryptocurrencies. This did not happen overnight. This wasn't a mistake. This is because the world that we have seen developing over the last 15 months with cryptocurrency prices going down, this was a very intricate time for a lot of institutions to be able to get into the cryptocurrency space and buy up a vast amount of cryptocurrency, especially because we had XRP around the 27, 28, 29, 30 cent price for a very long time. And what do you expect is going to happen when a number of these cryptocurrency exchanges and mega institutions are going to be custodying these cryptocurrencies and also adding them onto their platform? They're buying these things up for themselves. And this is kind of where we get this very large number from. Keeping in mind that this is the actual rich list right here. That is to say, the millions, if not billions of XRP that are held by the top wallets. It goes from anywhere from 0 to 19 XRP, 20 to 499 XRP, 1,000 XRP, 10,000 XRP, etc., 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 etc. This is actually accounting for 78.3% of the XRP that is actually flowing around out there. This is where it gets really interesting, because you get to the other figures. On the XRP rich list, it shows that 78% of the supply is in the hands of whales, more or less. They control a large amount of it, because I believe, and also because of the numbers that we've been getting around before, they've been buying this up while the prices have been depressed, lower. They're just kind of not there anymore. Meaning that roughly from the 42 billion XRP, 42.1 billion, XRP that we know are floating around out there in the circulating supply, 78% of it is in the whales of hands of whales. Whale hands? That means around 4 billion. Only 4 billion XRP is left around floating out there. That is to say 42 billion minus 38 billion, 4 billion XRP, which means with 4 billion XRP and 8 billion people on this planet, every person would only logically be able to hold half of an XRP for themselves and their family. That is also not considering the coin burn that is going to continue happening for as long as the XRP ledger is in existence. This leads me to the final thought for kind of all of this. I have my own ideas on how much of a cryptocurrency each person should own or hold. Keep in mind, never, ever, 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 never, ever invest more than you can afford to lose. If you put $1,000 into the cryptocurrency space tomorrow, and should every single price of every single coin fall to 0, you should not shed a tear. You should not be upset. You should not be sad. You should not be depressed. You put money into the market that you know if it goes to 0 tomorrow, you'll still remain the exact same person. That being said, I personally believe in 2 things. I think that because of the scarcity of a number of cryptocurrency assets, because of where the cryptocurrency space is going, I believe that everyone should in some way diversify their portfolio. I think this is very important. I believe myself, the first part is that everyone should, I want to say, aspire, should try to at least own at least 1,000 XRP. And I mean this, you can accumulate over the course of a couple of months. It doesn't have to be all at one time. I think a very good number would be around 10,000 XRP, simply because, once again, the coin